welcome everyone to our post-game show live from Seattle. Thank you to Jay Rallison Sellers for making this possible. Jay Rallison Sellers has been a big part of this venture with PNW Hockey Talk, so I want to say thank you to them. Unfortunately, we don't have a bottle of wine at the moment because we're at a hockey rink, but that will be in the near future. I'm pleased to be joined by Brandon Rivers, who's on location in some hallway, as well as Andy Kemper, who is team historian, former play-by-play man, color analyst, does it all for the Winterhawks. How are you guys tonight? Andy, we'll start with you.
I'm doing great, actually. Really wishing I was in the rink with you guys, but it wasn't bad sitting in my living room on the couch and watching it on the big screen. But yeah, I'm doing really well. Glad to be part of this.
Awesome, Brandon. How about you?
Well, you kicked me out of the suite next to you because I had headphone issues, but I'm over here, and it's been incredible to be back at the rink. Been well over a year, and I feel pretty lucky to be here, but it's been awesome. How about you, Josh?
Pretty good. It's been one of those, kind of walking in the building this afternoon was pretty surreal. Like, it's been over a year that we've been away. So getting back in here was just awesome. And being able to kind of hear the sights and the sounds and all that, obviously without any fans in the building, but yeah, great to be back here in Seattle. Obviously, we had a fun little drive up, and yeah, I'm glad to be here. Got a nice little backdrop. So anyway, we'll kind of get started here talking about the game. And Portland comes out with the victory. I think this one you have to give a lot of credit to the goaltender for the road team. Andy, what'd you see from home?
Yeah, obviously it wasn't the first period for Portland. They struggled to get out of their defensive zone. After the first minute and a half, they had two really good looks in the first 90 seconds. Newkirk on the breakaway set up by Simon Knack, and then rough from DeLorme with a wrist shot from the right circle, and that Milic was really good on. And then they had the 4-minute penalty kill, and I thought that might keep the momentum going in Portland's favor, but it really kind of turned it on for Seattle. They didn't do much on the power play, but they really got their forecheck and their net presence really working in that first period. And Dante had to be sharp. We saw guys like Rempe, who's the big body in front of the net, really kind of take control. I thought Matt Odette did a pretty good job of getting some matchups in that first period. He had Rempe out against the Jazowski line quite a bit. And obviously, 6'8" versus Kyle Jazowski, who's a smaller 16-year-old forward. That's a hard battle. But I thought Dante did what he had to do. He didn't have to really make any spectacular saves, but he made the right saves, and he was under control. And, it gave Portland a chance to get into the first intermission, and Mike Johnson get his team back under, some discussions. And I thought they came out in the second period and obviously played very well after that.
Yeah, Brandon, how about from your spot?
Well, I think, that's a pretty good synopsis of what happened in the first. I asked Odette and Rempe post-game via Zoom about the matchup thing, and Odette didn't really tip his hand saying he was going to do that fairly often, but when he has the opportunity like that in the home, like, he can't not have that or utilize that size that Rempe has as opposed to the players he's going against. And that young rookie, almost all rookie fourth line, I guess you'd call it, really seemed to hold up pretty well and had some, was flying out there, especially as the game got going. So I was pretty impressed with how they held up despite having the matchup issues. And then, in their own end, Portland's defense definitely got hemmed in quite a bit. And to me, what I saw that was different in the second period was just how much they were skating the puck out and how much they were active up into the opposing zone. Obviously, that's easier when you're not getting hemmed in as much. So credit has to go to the forwards, but I was really impressed with how much they jumped up into the play in the second period.
Yeah, for anyone watching live, feel free to post any comments in the YouTube chat, or shoot us a message on Twitter or reply to the post, and we'll be happy to take your questions or comments. Again, thank you to Jay Rallison Sellers for making this all happen. So we just want to maybe ask you guys a little bit about what you saw from Ryder Thompson tonight. I thought he played a really good game. He had a shot block there. Looks like there was kind of an empty net had he not gotten that, and I think that maybe turns the tide of the game there if that puck gets in. What did you guys see from Ryder Thompson either tonight or over the course of these first two games?
Well, Ryder Thompson's a guy that actually got a chance to show a little bit in the preseason last year in the Everett tournament, and and I thought he impressed me when he was in that environment. But it's you kind of wonder a little bit about just these young defensemen and what they're going to do with no real formal training camp, no exhibition games. And I thought he played really well. He was paired with Chichak for most of the night, and that gives him a veteran defenseman to kind of play off of. But I thought he seems to see the ice well. He picks his spots to pinch. He gets involved in the offense, but he also did a nice job in the passing lanes tonight and in the shooting lanes. And that's all you can really expect from a young defenseman in their first real test in the Western Hockey League, game number 2. And I thought he played pretty well against Tri-City on Thursday night also. And it's I noticed all of the young defensemen that played so far. McCleary got his chance tonight, and then Tallman on Thursday. One thing that at the end of the night I said I didn't notice him much. And I think that's a pretty good compliment when you see a young defenseman and you don't notice them much, because they're making the right play. And been a few times when they've had a bit of scrambly zone play, but for the most part, I think Thompson and the others have shown pretty well in their first couple games in Portland.
I know Brandon and I we were sitting, one suite apart, social distance with our masks on. And Brandon, you mentioned McCleary's kind of clear on the penalty kill off the glass while we were here. What'd you see, from him tonight?
Yeah, obviously his first action, I believe, right, in the WHL. So, right. He seemed pretty confident out there, especially in the second period when I was talking about the defense activating. He really didn't seem to be fazed by where he's playing at a higher level than he's played before. He had that clear on the penalty kill, which was a very key thing at the time when he ribbed it around the glass. And then he had a kind of a pretty gutsy pass right through his own zone, but it ended up right onto Jaden DeRoe's stick, and he skated right back right out of the zone in another key time. And the first, and then the second, as he seemed to get his legs under him and drove play, got a couple shots on net. Really seemed to be all over the place. And I think the biggest thing that stands out is Portland finally has a right shot D-man, right? I haven't seen that in quite some time. Andy could probably give us specifics, but
Yoka Haru, I think, right?
Yeah, not very many, that's for sure.
Yeah. How about we talked a lot about Portland so far. Let's maybe pivot to the Seattle side. And what stood out to you guys tonight from them? Brandon, I know you talked to Odette, and he continues to roll those young rookies out. Sometimes there's all 5 of them out there on the ice at the same time. What did he have to say in the postgame press conference?
Yeah, he just mentioned that he's going to continue to put them into key spots to help them grow. And you see Gustafson and Korchinski out there in the top unit power play. You see Ludwig out there. As I roll into my Ludwig, Ludwig right into the penalty kill. Like, he's putting all these guys into key situations. And something that Mike Johnson told me, turn it back to Portland several seasons ago was that's how these guys grow. That's how when they're 19. They're playing late into the playoffs and in key spots is because when they were 16, they were given the opportunity to fail and learn from it. And that really, stuck with me over the years. And that's what, Seattle and Odette are doing with these young guys. And there's a lot of skill on that back end with these young guys. Hansel stood out to me when I was watching via video last night. He scored and he skated very smoothly, reminiscent of some of the better skaters on the blue line that Seattle's had in their recent history. And, you just go down the list, there's a lot of highly drafted players that are getting a lot of opportunity, and they're definitely going to learn from it. And they're already paying dividends with, Hansel scoring last night and Gustafson at least getting credit initially with the goal tonight before. I'm sure if it hasn't been switched to Rampy already, he said in the Zoom post game that he did get a nice little deflection on it, so it will get switched to him at some point. But yeah, those young guys continue to impress.
I'll back that up. And I think Seattle's future is very, very bright. You know, it is a bit of a change of philosophy for them a little bit on their back end. I mean, they've always seemed to go with the bigger, more physical defensemen, and the Evan Wardleys and McNelly, but McNelly's really turned his game into a solid defensive game where he was early on more of a penalty minute waiting to happen kind of guy. But Korchinski is a young kid that really impressed me with his puck movement and hockey sense tonight, and Gustafsson obviously stood out, and then Hansel as well. There's 3 young defensemen there that are going to be players that everybody in the U.S. division is going to have to contend with for the next few years, and I liked what they brought to their game. And up front, the Alaska kid Ludwig, I did it too. Ludwig, it's not quite Hannes and Hannes, but it's pretty close. I thought he really showed some spark tonight up front, and we didn't see Sanders much, especially after the hit in the first period. He did come back to play in the second and third. But I think there's some good young talent there, and I think you're starting to see the transition from the Farwell era into the Bill LaForge era, and seeing some of the changes they're making. I think that's a necessity in today's game. Portland's obviously shown that you can win without having a huge lineup. You have smaller forwards and puck moving defensemen, and you can have success with that. And Spokane has done that a little bit as well. Everett does a little bit different style. Their goaltending is their number one position at the moment. In fact, Dustin Wolf got a shutout tonight in his first game against Spokane. So, but I really do think that Seattle's future is very bright with those young blue liners and the guys they got up front. And they've had some high draft picks the last few years, and they've made the most of them.
And in the back end as well, with I believe Thomas Milic was a 3rd round pick. He was outstanding last night against Spokane, and had some bounces to go against him. Was fighting the puck a little bit in the second period with those goals, but boy did he bounce back in the third and made some really 10-bell saves on a Seth Jarvis, on a Reese Kirk. Like some high-level players in this league. He continues to impress me.
Yeah, I think both goaltenders played well tonight. I mean, you take away the 2 goals that went in off Seattle players, and it's a 1-1 game, right? Without the empty netter, and he had to be good as well. And he got 2 games I think last year.
Yeah,
for Seattle. Yeah. And so you got a little bit of experience, but not much. They have Jackson Berry, I think, as their backup, who came from Moose Jaw. So that was a question for me for Seattle. How well would Milic play? Will that be an area that the teams can exploit? But it doesn't appear that Milic is going to be a guy you can exploit very often. And so, like I said, it's Seattle's future. I think 2 years down the road, when Milic is a 19-year-old goaltender, they're going to be a team that could contend for the U.S. division.
So let's talk a little bit about one of the things that has really stood out to me in the first 2 games is the play of Jarvis and Drouin. From my standpoint, they're maybe not quite clicking yet. Andy, I'd be curious your thoughts. I've counted, I think, 3 or 4 now 2-on-1s that they've had that hasn't resulted in a shot, and they're kind of flubbing the puck around a little bit. And there's Drouin's taken a couple of penalties, a couple of frustration penalties, it looks like to me. Obviously not there. It was, we're in the building tonight, so we can hear a little bit more. And there was a little bit of piped in noise. I don't know how much came across on the TV, but
not much.
Okay. It was barely, like it kept, I was like, am I hearing things? Like I kept looking over at Brandon. I'm like, am I hearing that? Like, is it just right? Like what's going on here? But it's just enough that, but we could hear what was being said on the ice. There are several times where you're like, okay, all right. So, with Jarvis and Drouin, obviously they're going to be fine. They're Portland's top 6. But I think if you had Nolan and Litke tonight as your 2 scorers, that's great. We've always talked about, especially these last couple of years, is Portland will go as far as their depth will take them. But this is my long-winded question to say to say where is Andy, are you concerned at all about the play of Jarvis and Drouin?
No, I'm not. I've seen this way too many times with players who come back from professional training camps more than anything else. But obviously, in Jarvis's case, playing 11 games, was it 9 games? 9, 11. He played about 10 games in the American Hockey League, and Dero got into one, but he was with Syracuse for a number of weeks there. And one thing that I've heard coaches talk about is that there's a different clock that happens, internal clock and mental clock, when you're playing professional versus junior. And junior is usually about a half second to a second slower than what pro is. And so you kind of have to make adjustments a little bit when you get back into that junior level clock speed. And that's what I've noticed more than anything else. I've noticed, when they have these opportunities, and it just might be my perception from watching it on the computer or watching it on TV, is that they're not going at the same speed they were last year. They're not taking the rush and making a direct rush to the net. They're kind of slowing down and looking for that pass maybe a little bit more than they were last year, instead of just letting it happen naturally, and maybe trying to make it more precise or pretty. And I don't think that's intentional. I think they think that it's it's going to happen slower for them. And I really see, and I saw it tonight with Jarvis. I thought he was so much better in the second and third period than he was in Tri-Cities in the first period tonight. He was more direct. He was getting shots on goal. He was making plays happen. He was controlling the puck more. And, he had some great looks tonight, and Village robbed him on a couple occasions. And Dero, I saw similar things. So I'm not worried about those two. They're going to put their points up. Newkirk has a couple goals in 2 games. He's played pretty well. Simon Knack has made a few nice plays driving to that. So the scoring is going to be there for Portland. It may not look like the first 2 games of the series of the season, but I'm not overly concerned about Dero and Jarvis at this point.
Brandon, I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of what you saw from. Gosh, I just spaced on his name tonight. Aiden Litke. And, with the loss of Kozak, I don't remember if we touched on this on air or off air, but Portland lost center Tyson Kozak to injury in the second period there. Mike Johnson did not have an update after the game. We did ask him about it on the Zoom. He said he hadn't had a chance to talk to Richie Campbell yet about kind of what the prognostication. I'm not good with words. Andy, help me. But there's no timeline yet, so that could we'll have to see. But with Gervais listed as day to day, and Portland only having 13 forwards. If both Kozak and Gervais can't go tomorrow, that means Portland's going 11-7. And with Tall Man already day to day with a lower body. There's going to be, these rookies are going to get put in more and more spots. What did you see from Litke tonight, Brandon?
Yeah, he seemed to improve as the game went on. Obviously, getting the goal off a Seattle player, it was kind of funny to see his celebration. Making it off a Seattle player trying to defend their net, and get that first goal under you, and he seemed to really put a little jump in his skates. And he nearly got another one. He tried to pick a corner and almost had a 2-goal game there. And more importantly for the team at the end, really was out there. When Seattle pulled Milic for the extra attacker, had a key shot block, didn't look out of place. Looked like he's ready to jump right up in this league, and play maybe a third line role, maybe an increased role, especially if Kozak's out in any sort of long-term time. I was really impressed with the little things that he did. Watching him in person, and the highlight reel goal there as his first one. Maybe that's not how he's going to describe it years from now when he talks about his first goal. But I was really impressed with his play. He really jumped out to me.
I think when Portland is on their game, they're transitioning the puck, they're moving it, the passes are tape to tape, and they're out of the zone quickly. I think there was a couple of opportunities tonight where Portland got behind the Seattle defense. We saw Newkirk had an opportunity, I think it was that late in the second, and the pass was just a little bit off, didn't quite hit him in stride. There was a couple on the 2-on-1s. We saw that on Thursday against Tri-City. So, and some of that, there's no preseason, there's no extended training camp to kind of work out some of those kinks. We'll see if Mike Johnson kept the lines the same entering tonight with Kozak out. He kind of had to shuffle. At the end of the game there, he did give power play time to the rookies in Bevington, Newen, and forgetting the third guy. Shazowski. Thank you, Andy. So, I think there's just a lot that's, I think, to like if you're Portland to start right now. Andy, like, from what you've seen over the years, you've got all the stats and the history. When do you start to see from your experience that, either from a Portland side or a Seattle side, how some of these rookies are eventually going to kind of take that next step? Do you see there's a certain game threshold?
Well, in normal season, Mike Johnson always says after 20 games. So we obviously don't have that luxury in a 24-game schedule. So I'm thinking, with a condensed schedule, I think after 5 or 6 games, I think you'll start to see a pretty normal pattern. Mike likes to not necessarily keep 3-man lines together. He likes pairs. He had Jarvis and Duro, Newkirk and Knack, Manic and Fromm Delorme. And then I think the wingers may move around a little bit after that. That's just my interpretation of what I've seen in the first 2 games. So, he likes to keep, pairs together, and then he can rotate a third person in and around on the lines wherever he wants to move people to. And if, Tyson Kozak not being able to finish tonight's game, I don't think he was on the bench in the third period. So see what his situation is for tomorrow, and also with Keyshawn Gervais, because, he's an energy guy that can really bring something to the lineup if he's able to get in tomorrow night against Spokane, who's playing their 3rd game in 3 nights. I would say, I think after, 5-6 games, quarter of the way through the season, kind of like we see with the 68-game season, I think is where you're going to maybe start to see trends and a more cohesive kind of lineup for Mike Johnson. And I think the 3 young defensemen will be rotating in and out of the lineup depending on availability. We haven't seen Luca Cannoni yet. We'll be interested to see if he gets in the lineup tomorrow night as a 7th defenseman if the Hawks can only go with 11 forwards. So it's going to be an interesting, first weekend of hockey for all these guys. So, condensed schedule, obviously, I think it's going to be about 5-6 games before we see any cohesiveness.
So we're live here in Seattle. Brandon and I are on location. Brandon's in, some hallway. I kicked him out of the suite next to me.
It's in the bowels of the Shoalware Center.
It's in the bowels of the Shoalware Center.
Where's the green walls? That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you'll see him on the postgame show with, or the postgame audio that we had with Mike and Dante. There's green walls in the background there, but. So, for those who are just joining us, thank you. We're taking any questions you have on YouTube, or throw us anything on Twitter. Andy, we did get one question about the 3 stars of the game. I believe you had wrote those down.
Yeah, actually, they, from what I understand, they didn't announce them in the building. But Ian Henry, who is was it Ian Henry or Ian Fidesz? One of the Ians.
Henry. Ian Henry, yeah.
So Ian Henry is the director of media for the Thunderbirds. Number 1 star with Dante Januzzi, and that's not a surprise. They gave him number 2 star to Henrik Rubinski. I thought he had a good game tonight. And then Gustafsson, the young defenseman, was number 3 star in the building for Seattle.
Wonderful. Thanks, Andy. So, Brandon, one of the key moments for tonight, I think we've had a couple people join us more recently. Obviously, was the play of Januzzi there in the first period. Milic with the save at off of Newkirk at the start. But I think for me, and I'd be curious your standpoint, I thought the turning point of the game was Mason Manic dropping the gloves, and he's really sparked the bench, and it's the second night now that he's done that. What did you any thoughts there? Or what was the turning point for you? Do you feel like, was it the second period, the start of the second period? Was it the fight? Was there another moment? What was it for you?
I think they picked up the play a little bit at the start of the second period, but yeah, you look for those turning points. Not necessarily happen every game, but Manic dropping the mitts and just showing his team that he's going to give it every night. I mean, he was assist short of Gordie Howe hat trick in his first game, and he completed the Gordie Howe hat trick with the empty netter there at the end. He's a guy that's overage guy that Mike just continues to lean on in every role. And while he's not the Seth Jarvis highly drafted NHL drafted guy, he gives his team everything, and that can't help but inspire his team's play, especially as an assistant captain, as a leader, a clear leader in the locker room. Dropping the mitts, for a second straight game and trying to get his team going. Yeah, play might have been kind of turning already a little bit, but that can't help to, can't help but assist this team with turning that momentum, and that really seemed to be a key point to me. And I'm not entirely sure why I think it was Davidson would drop the mitts at that time with his team kind of controlling play, but you're also trying to play a role in your team as well, so you can't really doubt that too much. And I really like his game. He doesn't take a shift off. He drives the play that Mike usually has him playing with some younger guys and throwing them around different spots in the lineup. And he's a guy that's over the years of watching this league, and probably Andy probably agree with me, is those guys you just love to see them grow. They're not going to have the skill that gets them highly drafted, but they're gonna find their role, and they're gonna find anything they can do for their team to help them win. And he does that on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Mason's just a character person and a character player, and he's now leading the team in goals, points, and penalty minutes. So that's I think that'll be a hard thing to keep up for 24 games. But it's this is 20-year-old year. He's trying to make that impression. We talked about development and having another opportunity to catch the attention of a scout. And for lack of fans in the building, and scouts are allowed in the building, so they are able to see the players and watch them play. And with no fans, you got to build your own energy. And Mason's a guy that has energy to spare, and it's good to see him get rewarded with with some goals. I remember when he was in training camp before he signed with the Winterhawks, and he was lighting up the Neely Cup. He was scoring lots of goals and getting lots of points, and you think, man, this kid's going to be a big scorer. And it hasn't necessarily turned into that in the Western Hockey League, but that hasn't been his role. I mean, he's always been behind some forwards who with some pretty lofty scoring pedigrees, and Cody Glass and Joachim Blichfeld and others, and now with Jarvis and Giroux and Newkirk. And this is a chance for him to show that he can provide some offense and provide some spark. And who knows, maybe he can find a way into his pro contract after these 24 games. And I think, if not, I think he's got a great future anyway. Outside of it, he's already got his own clothing company called Buck Tough, if you ever want to take a look for that. And he's a heady player and works hard at everything he does. And it's nice to see him get rewarded. And I don't think Mike Johnson necessarily wants him to drop the gloves every night, but it's been a good start to the season for him for sure.
And I know that I believe there's 14 scouts in the building tonight. I think I saw Seattle put that out. So he's definitely put on a show tonight for them. We did get one question on YouTube here. Will the Hawks number 2 goalie Brock Gould get a start tomorrow night or next game? I think that's Johnson is very tight-lipped when it comes to starting who's going to start as goalies. I learned that pretty early on in my time that if you want to end an interview, ask Mike who he's going to start the next night, because that's usually the ending question. But
about any coach right now in any league, that's pretty much how it goes.
It's just how it goes. So we don't know what that's going to be. I think there's 24 games. Mike has made it very clear in all the interviews at the start of the season that Dante is the number 1 goaltender. Dante has earned the right to have the net. And as we've seen from Portland, history would tell us, if we could tap on the team historian, is that Mike likes to ride his number 1 goaltenders. We've seen that over the past couple of years. We've seen it with Hofer. We've seen it with Aiden Hill. We saw it with Cole Kaler. And I think Aiden Hill was maybe not the Mike Johnson era, but it's
it was in that transition. Jamie Compon and
So I think in a 24 game season, it's all about getting. Dante's the future and the present for the Winterhawks, and Gould is in as because he couldn't get back to Moose Jaw. So I think there's obviously Dante's going to need maybe time off if there's when they do a 3-and-3 or something like that, you'll see. But when a goalie's playing well, Mike likes to play him, especially his number one. And I talked about it last on Thursday with Tri-City. I don't fault him on any of those goals. And tonight, it's a power play goal from, a 6'8" drafted guy who deflects the puck in. He's dialed in and he's playing well. So, when it comes to in this developmental season, as an 18-year-old who is also looking to get drafted and kind of make his case, he's grown, he's put on weight, he's worked out in the off season like crazy. We touched on that about how he was one of the first guys to Portland. So he's earned that right. So that's my long-winded answer of I don't know. Stay tuned for about an hour before puck drop. We'll probably have an idea at that point for sure who will be getting the start. But, until then, it's, we don't know about playoffs right now. There's nothing scheduled. No one knows, but it's all about development, and Dante's earned his right. So,
yeah. And the other side of the equation too is the Hawks don't play again until next Friday.
Yep.
So they do have a gap between games, and Spokane's coming at the end of a 3-3. They played Campbell Arnold in their game against Seattle last night. Tonight they had their other goaltender in net, Mason Beaupit. So I would think they would go back to Campbell Arnold tomorrow, but again, we don't know that for sure. But you look at Dante, and he's earned the right in his numbers last year. 7-1, 1.68 goals against average, 93% save percentage. So he proved last year, and the time he was able to go in that he's able to play. Most of those games came against the Tri-City Americans, so that you have to take that into a bit of the equation. But he's been pretty good against Spokane. He's 2-1 in his three games against Spokane. One of those was the relief appearance where the Hawks were down by 3 and they came back and won the game, and he didn't allow any. That was his first ever career Western Hockey League victory. 3.2688, but his save percentage hasn't been that great, 85.5% in his starts against Spokane. So I think if you ask Dante, he'd say, put me back in. But yeah. I think any goaltender would do that. Gould against Spokane in his career, he's played in 5 games against him, 1 win, 2 overtime losses, 4.12 goals against, but a 9.00 save percentage against Spokane. So one of those was last year, I think, where he had a really good game for Moose Jaw against Spokane, where he kept him in the game, made like 46 out of 48 or something like that. And the next night he came to Portland and Hawks put 11 on him. So it's going to be an interesting call. And as you said, Mike Johnston doesn't like to tip his hand. And I don't think he will. And even if you asked him, he's not going to tell you.
No.
And like you said, that's a good way to stop the interview. Yep. But anyway you look at it, I wouldn't be surprised to go back to Dante, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we started Gould to get him some game time.
Yep. Wonderful. Well, thank you for the question there. Brandon, what else stood out to you tonight or over? I know you've watched a couple of other U.S. Division games. You've seen Spokane. You watch them. So, as we maybe look ahead to tomorrow, I guess, where do you want to take it? Would love to get, what's still going on, kind of what thoughts you have.
Yeah, I guess transitioning right into Spokane, they got that top line. I don't know if Andy, because I didn't get a chance to see it. Do you know if Jack Finley got in tonight, or is he still out?
Hold on, let's see.
Because I know he was out that first game, so.
Yeah. And he had his number. He had Portland's number a bit last year. A couple overtime winners.
So they had Adam Beckman and.
Yeah, Finley did not play tonight, so I'd be surprised if he plays tomorrow. If he's out the first 2.
Loading up that first line against Seattle, and Beckman and Zumek, like they will, drove the play and created a ton of opportunities. Beckman had, was in on all 3 goals in the loss to Seattle, and they got tonight. That guy's going to drive play, but for
so Everett wins tonight 2-0, and Beckman, Zumek, and Larson are all -2.
Yeah. So with Spokane, they're faced a similar situation as Portland, and that they're missing some key guys to the USHL with Lucas Perique, Luke
Paparowski. Yeah.
That helps balance that lineup in that forward group. Really a lot of rookies, a lot of guys who haven't played big roles in this league elsewhere in that forward group. They lost 3 guys off their back end from last year that are now currently playing professional hockey, and Philip Kral, Noah King, and Ty Smith. That's a big loss for any team to really sustain. And Lucas Parikh, their starting goalie, isn't from last year, isn't playing with them this year. So they're going with Campbell Arnold, who tore his ACL around Christmas time in 2019, and played his first game the other night against Seattle, and I think played well pretty early. And then it's his first game, and I don't know how many months. So it looks like maybe he'll get the opportunity again tomorrow. And
actually, maybe not, because I'm looking at the game sheet for Spokane.
Yeah.
Hope it started. The backup was Manny Pangli.
Yeah, a guy that signed in the offseason. So yeah, that's
not Campbell Arnold was not backing up tonight. So unless they really didn't even want him to get into the game at all, and they were just resting him wherever.
And keeping 3 goalies, I mean, that's some teams are using that, but are doing that, but it's not super common in the league right now. And maybe it's you do when your guy like Campbell Arnold is coming back from a torn ACL.
Yeah. Or maybe we get a shock and we get the guy we've never seen before in that tomorrow for Spokane. So,
Andy, I'm no guy to give you homework, but I would be curious if when was the last time the number 1 and number 2 scorer from the WHL returned for the following season? Because because that would be interesting to know, because with Adam Beckman and Seth Jarvis, finishing 1-2. I think that would be an interesting nugget to, and kind of a storyline for
different teams, because didn't Leipzig and Patan return after tying?
Yep, they did. I'll you guys want to pick a topic and talk amongst yourselves for a minute? I'll take a look.
Oh, I didn't mean for right now. I meant maybe for tomorrow. But I mean, you always seem to have the answers with that stuff. So
I know Nick Buchanan and Brendan Leipzig tied for the scoring lead one year, and then returned to play for their team again the next year, which is something.
Right.
Because Buchanan was 17 when he did that, so that was.
Yeah.
It's not super.
They probably were the last one. I'm looking at I'm back in 2015, 16. So it might have been, 2015, 16, Adam Brooks and Dryden Hunt.
Anyway, your radio experience is far extensive, longer than mine. My one time doing color analyst, one of the advice that I was given is don't ask a question and put a guy on a spot, right? that he doesn't know the answer to. So I violated that here, but anyway.
You know what? It's okay, because this is something that I did when I was doing games. I would be able to I'd be able to research something while the game's going on and still be able to call the game. So
So Josh, wasn't one of the first times you did color the last game of last season?
Oh gosh, no. Oh gosh, you're right. I think it is. No, because it was
Victoria.
It was the Victoria game in the Moda Center that I did, and when we say first and only, big shout out to Marlon Mettens for trusting me with a microphone. But anyway, that's just something to watch. I think Portland's going to see a different, again, 3 different style teams in over the course of 4 nights, and the depth up front for Spokane is very different, or the top end players are going to be very different than anything they've seen yet. It's going to test that young D-core or inexperienced D-core as well. They haven't faced a shooter like Beckman. No Jack Finley probably means that if the game's going to overtime, I'll need to find a different pick. Like Andy said, he's kind of had their number, but those Portland Spokane games can, they somewhat play a similar style. I'm really curious to see how Spokane adjusts without Ty Smith, the best defenseman in the WHL the past couple of years. And I know I'll take flack for those who think Bowen Byram, but I will die on that hill. Ty Smith. So anyway,
I don't think you can go wrong with either of those guys. So
yeah, I think both are good there. So I know we've been going for a while now.
Just to answer your question, it was Patan and Leipzig. So that was
Patan and Leipzig.
Right. Yeah. So Sam Steele was in the top two consecutive years, but Dryden Hunt graduated after the first year. So
gotcha.
So Patan and Leipzig were the last 2 top scorers to come back for the next season.
So, Josh, you made that a Portland-centric question without even knowing you were making a Portland-centric.
I was trying not to make it Portland-centric was really my goal with that.
Well, I knew the answer was Patana Leipzig. I just didn't know if there's anybody in between.
What and maybe the better way to phrase it is like Brandon, like you said, with two separate teams, right? When was it, two different guys or from two different squads.
You're probably gonna have to go back quite a ways for that. So I'm not gonna do that right now.
No, by no means.
Since we're doing, I kind of looked something up in the offseason too, just because I was curious whether a Beckman or a Jarvis in a shortened season could do a two points a game average. And in the era that they have posted, at least what I saw, was of anyone that finished in the top 10 in scoring, only two guys since the WHL has those stats posted online, so 97, 98. Only two guys have averaged 2 points a game or more and finished in the top 10 in scoring.
Sven Berchi?
Yeah, you got it. Sven Berchi. And can you see if you can get the other? Not a Portland. More recent.
More recent. Give me a team.
Swift
Huh?
Swift Current.
Oh, Swift Current, Alexei Heponiemi.
There you go. So two import guys. We're the only two guys who do 2 points a game or more and finish in the top 10 in scoring. So something to look for. If a guy like Beckman and Jarvis can get it going here. And
right now, I don't think anybody's going to catch Dylan Gunther. So other than he didn't, he wasn't in the lineup. He was not in the lineup tonight for Edmonton. So
yeah,
nothing serious, but wasn't able to play tonight.
Yeah. Well, any last thoughts, guys? Anything we didn't touch on?
Not for me. I think 3 points out of 4 in the first 2 games of the season is okay. I think Portland would have liked a better result last night, but give Tri-Cities credit. I thought they played hard, and I thought they deserved to get the win. Tonight, I thought Portland, after the first 20 minutes, really got their game back to where they wanted it to be. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting battle. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Spokane does, especially with their third game in 3 nights. And that's going to be a tough haul for them and for Portland to see what they can do on a back-to-back. So that's really what I'm looking for tomorrow night. Who has better stamina, better legs, better conditioning in that second and third period tomorrow night.
And Portland will be home in Seattle.
Yes.
So I know tonight it was there obviously wasn't the chant that everyone loves to hear so much. It'll be curious tomorrow if Portland scores if we hear TNT in the Shower Center.
Yeah, that's I don't know. That's a bit much to comprehend at the moment.
Yeah, I have heard at the Regina Hub or wherever they're calling it, the PA guy is putting a more emphasis on whoever the home team is when they score. So maybe we'll get a little bit of that from the PA guy in house here, Tom Helm. But I don't know. I don't know if the TNT is going to happen.
I just want to know. So, guys, going to go back to the right bench and the right penalty box tomorrow. So,
right,
because the Hawks will be on the Seattle bench. So we'll have to make sure they know which bench to go to. It's muscle memory is going to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all those little things, right? So, Brandon, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I guess just in general, we kind of touched upon it, but just to kind of wrap things up, two big unknowns coming into the season for Portland is the defense and goaltending with the losses there and kind of some unproven guys there. But I like what I'm seeing so far out of the 2 games outside of parts of the Tri-City game and then obviously the first period with the defense. There's a lot of areas I've seen in growth there, and a defenseman scoring a goal or being the primary assist guy on all 3 of their goals against Millich tonight. So providing some offense too. So some good signs for Portland from things that, I've been looking for, unproven and unknown things.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start to wrap it up here. I will be back in the building tomorrow night. Brandon, I think, has other prior commitments. I think the rest of you are going to probably be watching on the CHL app, hopefully, or the CHL.TV, whatever that is. Hopefully that's a little bit smoother. I didn't see anything tonight, obviously, but I will be in the building and be able to, do my typical live tweeting the best I can from my spot here. We've posted a lot of content on PNW Hockey Talk over the past couple of couple of days here. So, if you've missed anything, check that out. I know Andy Kemper's got some great stuff with his After the Whistle blog that he's got going. And then Brandon's got his new blog that he's doing called 5 for Reading, which I just think is a great title. Thank you to Ryan Sinclair for the assist on that. So Brandon's got his 5 thoughts that will get posted. We'll have a recap. If you joined late, I'll have a recap up later. We'll post this video so that way you can go back and watch and dissect and think of questions for tomorrow night. We'll try and have something. I've got a long drive back after the game, but I think there's some opportunity to be able to do this again. Any feedback you guys have, we'd love to be able to hear it, take questions. But again, want to just give a quick thank you to Jay Rowlis and Sellers, who's sponsored this for us, and Jared has been a huge supporter of me and for PNW Hockey Talk, and just providing the resources that allows us to be able to do this. So check them out at rowlisandsellers.com. They're located in Old Town Sherwood. So and be sure to mention PNW Hockey Talk or the Winterhawks when you go in, and you'll get 2-for-1 tastings, and say hi to Jared for me. So guys, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much. It's great to be back in the rink. Hopefully we'll see fans back in the building at some point here soon. Portland's back home, I believe, on Friday, 5:00 start. So set your DVRs on your phone. Make sure you're ready for that early start. So with that, we'll end here. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, Josh. Take care.